preface. I'm absolutely not going to preface this at all. Bro, this shit is something else.
I'm certainly not saying this of all the student protesters that are out there, and certainly not children of Palestinian families who have lost loved ones through the years in this war, in this conflict. I will say, though, and I've spoken with some of them, I want to be careful, but among these white, woke, pampered, elitist, I'm not supposed to use that.
Now, let's analyze what happened. We see we made 30 seconds here. We already found something interesting. It's going to be like this all video. I'm telling you guys. There's going to be one video I got a lot of explaining to do. Like, you understand that Joe Scarborough is upset at the concept of white allyship. So what liberals are claiming, people in the corporate media, they're claiming the only people that should care about the genocide in Palestine are people who have Palestinian family members. Do you understand how disgusting that is? So if there was a genocide in Mexico right now, let's create a scenario where there's a genocide in Mexico. So the only people who should be protesting that are Mexicans? And people have family in Mexico? Guys, that is what they say all the time. They're like, oh, I understand if you're Palestinian, you're protesting this. But if you're black and if you're white, don't ever show them support, though. We're not supposed to support them. Go ahead.
But Nick, they have a particular, and I was talking about this the other day with Professor Zunkus. They have Chuck Modi. They have a particular offense. It's a particularly offensive to them when white students are joining this.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a particular offense because it's like, it's an offense because, and this is what I see, it's like Joe Scarborough is saying, white students, do you understand you are going against your own white interest by being against this? Do you not understand the empire is to uphold the white power structure? So why are you joining this? Because this is against your interest. They can't say that. But that's what they want to say. It doesn't make sense. Why are you here? This is against your interest. That's their particular offense about it. But go ahead.
That's such a great point. I was watching the amazing stream you did. I was trolling in the chat a lot. The stream you did with Zakis, we made that point. It's such a great point. They're in shambles over their children rebelling against their established order. Because remember, they took over the reins from the competent members of the ruling class who built the empire. So then it was ingrained into them that they are defenders of the empire, and they took it with pride. Oh, my father built this empire up. My father committed mass atrocities, and I'm still here to do propaganda for him and the gains that he got. So those same people that went through this process where their parents passed the empire to them, they're at the point where they're trying to pass the empire to their kids, and they're rejecting the keys. Like Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman went on this entire real red pill nonsense because his daughter is a Marxist who supports a free Palestine. We're witnessing, I may be naive for saying this, I admit this. We've seen it for the first time. The children of the ruling class in this country starting to rebel. Once again, I may be naive when I say that. But that concept is panicking the ruling class. Now let's continue, because bro, this segment right here is something else. But let's get. I want to show his point again. I'll let it continue. Because this is the part where he's wagging his fingers at, he's like, I understand the pain of the Palestinians, but you motherfuckers better let them suffer alone.
Through the years in this war, in this conflict. I will say, though, and I've spoken with some of them, I want to be careful, but among these white, woke, pampered, elitist, I'm not supposed to use that word, let's say children from wealthy families that decide, as Dr. Brzezinski said so many years ago, that they're going to play radical for a weekend and then go home to mommy and daddy's mansion.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Show me one revolution that was accomplished without class raiders. Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, they all were class traders. But you guys see how the ruling class, they understand the effectiveness of having class traders help an uprising movement to challenge the empire. That's why they're in trouble. Well, I'll let it continue. I think you guys get it. I'm going to keep the stop to a minimum, but when I do stop it, I will have something important to say.
There's a complete ignorance about the complexities of this issue. Now, of course, if you listen to this show, you would understand many of the complexities of this issue, because we have been really tough on Israeli officials that come on this show. We have asked why they've continued to allow illegal settlements in the West Bank over the decade, why they have continued to fight against a two-state solution for peace, why they have done what they've done in Gaza, why they did with Hamas, why Netanyahu was Hamas's ally leading up to October 7th. So it's very complicated. That's lost, though, in a lot of those things. And when you start talking about even West Bank settlements with a lot of these students, their eyes glaze over. Because that's not in the TikTok.
Now, I'm not going to talk a lot here because you're going to be condescending, but we all know this is not true. This narrative, they're like, oh, they're just dumb kids. This is pure cocaine. I'll let it continue because it's so ridiculous.
Again, I'm not saying this about all the students, but I will tell you, I'm saying about a hell of a lot of students.
Wait, I'm sorry, I have to say, it doesn't even make sense at face value. Like, if think about the situation they just painted, these are wealthy, rich, white kids. Do you really think wealthy, rich, white kids are going to ruin their reputation within their class, face class retaliation, get expelled from the schools over an issue they don't know about? I promise you, if anyone making this decision to face a police state that we seen last night, they know this issue up and fucking down. And I don't have to hammer that point too much because I know you guys know it. If you talk to anyone at a protest, that will be the smartest motherfucker most likely you're gonna talk to all week. The people who go to protest are the people who are usually the most informed. The people who don't go to protest are usually motherfuckers just playing PlayStation, watching Netflix, jacking off, and assuming everything in the world is great. Meanwhile, they continue. I'm gonna keep my points as short as possible because it feels, bro. We wait until we get to Minka because believe it or not, bro, I've seen this whole segment because I was watching almost like a fucking documentary, bro. Around I get to like 10 minutes more, I was like, all right, it was like watching a documentary. Let's see how crazy they can get. I watched the whole thing. Guys, believe it or not, Joe Scarborough is probably the least insane person that you're gonna hear on this panel. Believe it or not. So let's continue.
I have spoken with when you go.
Let me go back a little bit for context. I know it can be hard to follow sometimes when I stop it.
Complicated. That's lost, though, in a lot of those things. And when you start talking about even West Bank settlements with a lot of these students, their eyes glaze over. Because that's not in the TikTok video. And again, I'm not saying this about all the students, but I will tell you, I'm saying about a hell of a lot of students I have spoken with. When you go, well, you know, in 2000, there was an Oslo Accord where Bill Clinton had gotten together and they were giving 97% of the West Bank to the Palestinians and the other 3% they were going to make up with Israeli land. And they had figured out a capital in East Jerusalem. And they sit there with their eyes glazed. Mm-hmm. Just have no idea what happened.
This absolutely did not happen.
What happened through the years. They see something on TikTok and they're like, Israel bad and Hamas good. And they go out and they start.
So Joe Scarborough is doing this thing. Yeah, I'll pass right to you, CJ. I'll make this point real quick. Joe Scarborough doing this thing like, oh my God, these are the young, dumb kids. You understand how ridiculous Zionists are when they say this? You understand the majority of the world is pro-Palestine? Like the International Criminal Court is about to fucking issue an arrest warrant on Netanyahu. Meanwhile, Joe Scarborough like, oh my God, these kids don't know what's going on. Bro, you guys are in the minority. The only thing that protects Israel is U.S. veto power. But go ahead and make your point, CJ, before you forget it.
No, I was just gonna say this is just a complete professional managerial class, sort of elitist from an educational standpoint, critique that they always try to use because you don't know all the histories and the data points that they want to pull out of history, because maybe the person they're talking to can pull out other data points that they have been studying more closely. But this is what they do. Oh, you don't know this? You don't know this Oslo Accord? No, what I do know that there's 30,000 dead people. I know that part. You get what I'm saying? They're trying to make it seem like the most important points of what's going on, these young people are unaware of. And the most important points is they know that this is an occupation. They know that this is colonialism. And they know that there's thousands of people getting murdered. Like what, you know what I'm saying? Like that's enough. That clears the threshold to be able to say, I need to go out and protest and stop this. But he's trying to say, you need to know the Oslo Accord too, and you need to know this, and you need to know that in order to what? To clear your threshold to be able to go protest? It's absurd.
So, you know what? Now you gotta see why I read this part first. You know who didn't cover this on their show? Morning Joe. Why didn't Morning Joe cover the checkpoints, CJ? You know the checkpoints where they're executing any Palestinian men, even if they're unarmed? Why didn't they cover the mass graves? I watched their show. I know what they cover and what they don't cover. They didn't cover the mass graves. They don't cover the concentration camps. So isn't it funny how they put out this messaging that the people protesting genocide are ignorant, as they don't cover stuff like this what leads people to hit the streets. People hitting the streets because they're about to have a fucking Holocaust in Rafah. But anyway, let's continue the video because that point is so absurd. We don't have to continue on it. This idea that the people protesting don't know anything. The reason why your audience is not protesting is because you're not showing them shit.
Shouting at Jews.
Once again, I can't stress enough. Joe Scarborough, I still believe, after everything we've seen, he's still the most rational person you're going to see on this panel today.
Deep. You can ask, what does it mean to chant from the river to the sea?
Look,
and they don't know.
They all about to get crazy.
Tell them what it is, and we've seen this from reporters asking some of them. Not all of them. Some of them have a deep understanding of it.
He said that these people are chanting to the river to the sea without even knowing what it means.
Yeah, right.
Anyway, let's continue. I don't have to point out how ridiculous that is. From the river
to the sea, and they don't know. And then when you tell them what it is, and we've seen this from reporters asking some of them, not all of them. Some of them have a deep understanding of this. They don't understand that that means the elimination of the state of Israel and the people who live within that state. So I've been having a lot of these same conversations as you, Joe. So if you watch our show, you know how.
So why don't you have a pro-Palestinian? Or I keep saying it. The anti-genocide protesters, bring them on the show and ask them, what do you mean when you say to the river to the sea? You know they don't do that? Because I've seen the young people say, hey, when we say to the river to the sea, we mean liberation, fighting against colonialism. You guys see how they got a fucking straw man their argument? They don't really know what it means. No, you don't ask them. You don't have them on to explain this stuff. I'll let it continue.
Critical we've been of Netanyahu, of the prosecution of the war, that we grieve and mourn for children and women who have been killed in this war, that are starving in this war. It's a terrible, terrible thing. But that does not give kids on college campuses license to chant from the river to the sea and to say that Jewish kids should not exist in some cases.
No one said that.
No
one said that.
Colombia, for example. So, Jonathan, point of view at the ADL, what are you hearing? I mean,
not this guy. Not this guy.
Experience since October 7th.
Bro, the first 3 minutes was a warm-up, bro. Wait till you hear from this motherfucker.
Right now, in the midst of these protests, what is it like to be a Jewish student on the campus of not just Columbia, but University of Texas? There are a whole bunch of schools.
It's the right question, Willie. You know, I was at UCLA on Sunday. I was at USC on Friday talking to Jewish students. I was at Columbia last week. And let me tell you, I don't know exactly what Eugene saw at GW in terms of these tents, but I've talked to students from all these universities, and they don't feel afraid. They are with good reason. Right. And as mentioned in the opening here, you had someone with a hatchet at University of Utah. You had students with hammers who broke into the building at Columbia last night. You had someone with a sword at UCLA on Sunday. This isn't normal.
You notice how he doesn't mention that those weapons was used to attack Jewish students? They just said they have it.
Normal. People showing up fully concealing
and Nick,
their faces.
The hammer was
like
breaking
ISIS
into
fighters.
a building. It wasn't even a person. The hammer he mentioned, this is a propaganda tech, and he does it so loosely. I can easily see it, and some people may see it or not. He'll say it's anti-Semitism, and then without saying, this is my illustration, they'll just start mentioning shit that has nothing to do with it. So you, the listener, will automatically, because why else would you be mentioning it? It's because what the listener's going to go, why else would he mention this unless that's what he means? That's not at all what he's saying. But let me just say this, from the river to the sea, that statement, when they say they don't even know what they means, what they're meaning to say is, The people that you don't even know how we interpret it, how Zionists interpret this. They know exactly what from the river to the sea means. That means that this is going to be a non-Jewish state. Jewish people can live there, but this should revert. I mean, if you're going to be radical like us, this should revert back to the Palestinians. Now, we're not saying Israelis should leave or be forced to leave, but they can live there peacefully like they were prior to the 1940s.
Yeah, let's continue.
Hey, you had someone with a sword at UCLA on Sunday.
Sorry.
This isn't normal. People showing up fully concealing their faces like they're ISIS fighters. That isn't normal. And I've heard from kids again and again and again. They are leaving campus. They are moving out of their dorms because they are worried. At Columbia, of course, President Shafiq, she had to close classes. I don't know if people realize this. Classes are over at Columbia. They all went remote because the administration was so afraid of these people.
Here it is.
I see these videos. I see these images of mass protesters breaking into buildings, barricading them with furniture. And look, I'm reminded of January the 6th.
Once again, this is going to be an RBN told you so moment, my friends. You know who I don't take seriously at all? The Bernie Sanders left. You have Bernie Sanders and AOC still talking about January 6th. Now do you guys see why RBN forcibly and strongly condemned January 6th hysteria? I strongly spoke out, and I will create funk and drama with anyone who put January 6th hysteria. Because what did I tell you guys on this show 3 years ago? Because RBN is post January 6th. January 6th has always been in reality since RBN. Ever since January 6th, we told you guys that the left has no business pushing that bullshit. No business pushing the January 6th hysteria that was always going to be used against the left later. You have AOC and her supporters. I see people who are not even politicians in the progressive movement talking about, oh my God, January 6th. Then we covered, as Ryan Graham and the Breaking Points was still covering for the squad, we covered how Ilhan Omar and the squad voted on a bill to give Capitol Police more money, quoting January 6th. So the Bernie Sanders left, the fake, fraudulent Bernie Sanders left that led the workers off a cliff, set up this situation where it can then, they said the precedent where the ruling class can then turn to lefties and say, oh, remember, you guys said you're not allowed to break in facilities. Remember, you guys told us that you wasn't allowed to protest this way. That's the affirmative that you guys gave us, Bernie, when you guys demonized January 6th. So you have to demonize this, right? This is just like January 6th. Once again, we told you motherfuckers and everyone in the left that called us Red, Brown Alliance. I told you, like me advocating against voting for Biden and my statement on January 6th, there are no two statements that got me canceled more than those two. The people that hung on, CJ, there was a few people that hung on after my rebellion on voting Democrats. And then when I used to joke about January 6th, that was did it. The same left in America.
This is just another example of how this is what you get when you team up with genocidal psychopaths. They're willing to target you and take you out. Now, think about it, Nick. You made a deal. Okay, let me say all mine, sell my Medicare for all. I'll come on board with your January 6th. So I came on board. I'm here, guys. Yeah. Now they're going to use January 6th against your ass. You see how it works when you're a social democrat? It's like, it's self-loathing. It's like you are a gluttony for like pain just to be a part of this coalition, because now they're turning their guns or their targets towards you. Now, Nick, this is my second point. Listen to what they're saying in this segment. They're doing everything but telling the truth, because they know these group of people are doing good. They're fighting for the good side. They have to tie all these other bullshit. Look, they're anti-Semitic. They're saying this, and there's all these like sort of one-off sort of incidents that happen. They're trying to make it seem like that's all that's happening. Now, what are they doing with tying with January 6th? They're trying to bring in the boomers. Get on board with us hating this protest, boomers. January 6th, or at the least, the cowbell left, meaning the diehard blue MAGA. If you're on the fence where you didn't quite know if you should go hard at, supporting the Palestinian cause, now they're trying to interject January 6th so to push you off that sort of tipping point onto their side. That's what they're doing. But go ahead. It's a lot.
That's what this looks like to me. I mean, we talk at ADL about.
No, I had to play the part again because this is the part where I thought David threw my phone, CJ, and I made that clip, and I had that tweet where I said that Morning Joe said that the protest was like January 6th, and that fucking video tweet blew up because everyone was like, "What he say?" Because I had to show people this. So I want you guys to hear the golden clip again, the part that we absolutely had to show you guys, and then once we're around 90 minutes in or so, I'm gonna show you guys the protest, which completely debunked their bullshit because they're gonna pretend that these campus protesters are like domestic terrorists, as we have the Mossad that is setting up operations where armed groups of Jewish people are attacking anti-genocide protesters. And guys, these things do not happen organically. They are part of the Mossad. Understand? But I'm gonna show you guys that here later. But just keep in mind that even corporate media, I got a statement that I definitely can't do today. There's no way I had time for it. But I'm gonna show you guys a segment that CNN did earlier today, where they had to talk about how Israeli settlers, well, not Israeli settlers, but Zionists, American Zionists and American Jews, was attacking peace protesters. But then, CJ, when they were doing the segment, they were trying to pretend, people were saying there was a lot of fighting. We don't know who started it though. We don't know who knows who started it. We got videos of Zionists literally attacking peace protesters as they're pretending the peace protesters are violent, and then after seeing these videos, they're like, "Oh, we don't know who did it. Oh, we don't know who started all this drama here." So shameless. Let's continue this video though.
Isn't normal. People showing up fully concealing their faces like they're ISIS fighters, that isn't normal. And I heard from kids again and again and again, they are leaving campus, they are moving out of their dorms because they are worried. At Columbia, of course, President Shafiq, she had to close classes. I don't know if people realize this. Classes are over at Columbia. They all went remote because the administration was so afraid of these people. I see these videos. I see these images of mass protesters breaking into buildings, barricading them with furniture. And look, I'm reminded of January the 6th. That's what this looks like to me. I mean, we talk at ADL about right-wing extremists, about masked Proud Boys showing up at school board meetings, about Oath Keepers wearing masks. I look at this and this is what I see. And let's be clear about one thing. The students who are doing this, the groups behind it, SJP, Palestinian Youth Movement, their response to President Shafiq's offer last night was, Columbia will burn. I mean, these students, we shouldn't treat them like children when they're hardened activists.
We shouldn't treat them like children when they are hardened activists. That's quote of the century right there. Do you see how the disdain that they have towards activists and activism? We can't treat them like children, CJ. They're activists.
Yeah, like that's how they use it. Ro Khanna uses it a lot that way. I brought up before, where they use the term activists when they say it all the time. Well, you have people who support them, and then you got those activists. They use that term all the time. It literally means people like us, people who aren't willing to go along with the establishment sort of talking point, not just disagree in our heads. We're willing to go out and protest. Those the people they really, really hate. And this is why they have such disdain for these people. And what are they going to do, Nick? This is leading up. A lot of these protesters are white. So I'm very interested to see what the sort of end result of this is going to be. Is it going to be the same sort of repression if this, for the BLM? Is it going to be the same amount of arrests, the same amount of prosecutions, the same type of charging, like the same high level charging? Is it going to be that? So I'm curious to see what's and it's their kids. You have to understand the people who go to Ivy League schools are the elite's kids. So these are their kids that's out there. That's why I'm curious to see what's going to happen.
One more thing before
Go
I
ahead.
continue, just to wrap up what this guy said. You guys realize that he compared people who are protesting their government as funding a genocide with the Proud Boys and other white supremacists. So when you see a Proud Boy march, when you see these Fed marches, ask yourself this question: what are they marching for? Like, when the Proud Boy march, do they think there's gonna be legislation that ban all white people? They're marching for nothing, and a lot of these people are feds. So how can you compare people who are literally marching for nothing with people who are literally protesting their government? But that's the shameless stuff that they say here. Let's continue.
Adults, and go ahead.
No,
So
I was just going to say this is it's one half about the students. It's also about, Mika, these authorities and the lack of them. Why are these school administrators, why are they abdicating their responsibility to this degree? And this affects students, it affects outsiders, it affects teachers with tenure. The last I checked, tenure is supposed to give you intellectual protection so you can say things in classrooms. It doesn't, it seems to me, give you the ability to break the law with impunity. And I just don't understand what's, and you see also the difference on the campuses between what's happening on some, Chicago and Florida, as opposed to what's happening at Columbia and others. There's an enormous gap in the principle and backbone we're seeing here.
Well, Richard, to your point, I think that's where that's the place.
Here we go. You guys know how crazy I got to skip for a second time. I'm not even going to comment on what the last guy just said, because this is the moment we all been waiting for. This right here, this rant that we're about to hear from Mika Brzezinski is going to go down as one of the most all-time, most unhinged rants that we ever seen. Now, yes, I literally had to pause the video to warn you guys. When I saw this rant, I put my phone down and I had to stop, and I was in awe. Literally in shambles. So let's watch this. What you about to hear from Mika Brzezinski is absolutely glorious. And I promise on my integrity, and CJ, hopefully you follow me on this. Let's let the whole rant play through, because there's no way I can. There's no way I can. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to show this whole rant uninterrupted. I'm going to be tearing my hair off my head, and we're going to come back when we meet, and we're going to talk about what we just watched, okay? So it's going to be horrifying to listen to
We've all been sitting and watching this going, what the hell is going on? What are these universities doing? Why aren't they doing something? And I'll echo the horror that this does look like January 6th. What a terrible example for our students. At the same time, these are young adults. And the question is, why do you choose to learn about the complexities of other situations around the world? But this one, you want to set up an encampment. This one, you want to scare people. This one, you want to come to the edge of violence or even go to violence.
Not the
this
edge.
one,
They're
you
breaking
risk
into buildings.
your future and your education for. See, I think these college students obviously are missing the part where they need to see what's going on across the country with these protests, that it's now in the realm of violence. It's in the realm of hatred, whether some are peaceful or not. They need to watch the news and look at all the different arguments and be adults, or start learning to be adults and set up discussions and debates across college campuses, or their colleges or universities are going to have no choice but to expel them and ruin their future, the impact they want to have on the community, society, and the world at some point. But let's then go to the hard part of this. What is the solution for college, university presidents and deans who want to maintain control, but also preserve free speech? What are solutions? Let's talk about solutions.
It's very simple. First of all, you enforce the rules of your college campuses. There is a concept.
Well, but you know that at this point would be hard to do.
Well, no, actually,
I'm just saying, you go out there and you start arresting people.
Yeah, you do. You either follow the law, you don't follow the law. There's a concept.
I don't think it's that simple.
In the First Amendment. No, if you, I will say, I understand over the last 24 hours what the Columbia administration has been trying to do. They've been trying to bring this to a peaceful resolution. And what happened? People got hammers and they broke into buildings. At that point, that's a crime. At that point, that's a crime. They should all be arrested, and they shouldn't be suspended. They should be expelled from school.
Hear, hear.
But this is virtue.
Hear. Oh boy, I was fucking seething.
No,
my
but
friend.
but
Yeah,
to
I'll
what
let you
I
go first. Go
said,
ahead.
yeah, what I said earlier, and we saw it on, we're seeing it on illustration most vividly on Morning Joe. It is a seething anger towards white students in particular for participating and taking it to this level. Now, think about it, Nick. You have people part of the ruling class who is saying to people in the ruling class, if these are your fucking kids that's taking it to this extreme, that's threatening white power in the future, they are threatening it, then they deserve to be expelled. So you get what I'm saying? They have reached a point to where they're like,
CJ, I get
you
exactly.
are threatening us now, so you gotta go,
Holy
white kid.
shit. No, CJ, you just killed it, bro. You just said something I didn't. It makes sense, but I didn't even think about it like that. Holy shit, that's such a great point. Because what they're doing right now, because their kids, they already lectured their kids. Their kids gonna be cool. What they're doing right now, this we know who watches the corporate media, who watches Morning Joe. They know only the suburban people are, the people in their class. So that's them literally broadcasting a threat to them, to their children. CJ, I didn't even think about it like that until now. This segment is all about Morning Joe threatening their own viewership, saying if you guys don't get your kids in line, we're going to ruin their future. That's a glorious way to put it. So let's continue, because that literally will actually, let me cover Mika's rant because there's so much there. So to start off here, she doubles down on the January 6th claim that the ADL guy said. So remember the ADL said, "Oh, these people remind me of January 6th." Yeah. And then she immediately affirms that, yeah, they do remind me of January 6th. And then she says she mentioned like, oh, you have all these conflicts around the world. You have all these people dying in all these conflicts. Why aren't they protesting this? And this is a line I hear from the corporate media a lot. They say, why aren't you guys protesting what happened in Sudan? Look at all of what happened in all these other countries. Why aren't you guys protesting this? Why aren't you guys protesting that? More children died in Gaza in the first 5 months of the conflict, because I don't have new data. And I got this data point 5 months in. So, it's way worse now. So as of 5 months in the war, more children died in this conflict than all battlefields of all wars combined over the last 4 years. Meanwhile, Mika and a bunch of white liberals are like, why you guys care about this one? Why you care about this one? Maybe because you niggas are setting Michael Jordan level war records. Like, you guys are setting records that are going to be in the Warmonger Hall of Fame forever. And then why you care about this so much? And then Mika then goes on a rant that affirms what you said earlier, where she literally physically don't understand the concept of class traders. Remember the part in the rant, because I had to write all this down because I didn't want to stop it, where she like, why would they do this? I don't understand. You had the bright future. Why would you throw it all away? Why would you throw it away? That's why they're based, Mika. Why do you think we love them, Mika? Why do we think we demand class traders, Mika? Guys, they are extremely brave, and I have the utmost respect for these people because they're giving away their position within their class. They're breaking this class antagonism that divides workers in the ruling class, and that is not an easy thing to do, to the point where their actions are melting the brains of the ruling class. What else I have written down here? And oh yeah, one last thing. She said, well, why don't these kids set up a debate stand? Why don't you got the kids, they want to protest, they don't want to debate genocide. You guys see how they want you to do stuff that doesn't fucking mean anything? I can debate someone right now on YouTube about Zionism. Is that going to stop the funding of Israel? Debating as a way to solve genocide. Once the genocide happened, nigga, we're beyond debating. Why do you think we were debating about Zionism before this? We were debating about Zionism in Israel, Palestine to prevent the genocide. Once the genocide happened, it's game time, motherfucker. Civility politics is dead. So I'm gonna play one more clip because we're not gonna get to the whole video.
The worst order for again, white woke kids that have no idea what they're talking about here. No idea other than what they've seen on TikTok. Again, there's a huge gulf in my mind between children of Palestinian families who have been a part of this tragedy and this suffering over the decades. And so I am not one to be able to sit in judgment of them. But I can sit in judgment of school administrators. What do you do? What do you do in a situation like this?
So I'm gonna end it here for a very specific reason. I'm glad I got a chance to end it here because now you guys see why I was building this up. I'll pass right to you, CJ. I just had one more receipt because everything that happened last night, the escalation of the police state. Why do you guys think that happened? I told you guys I'm gonna tell this story in a very particular way. I'll show you guys some receipts for yesterday as well. I want you guys to know that everything that happened last night that has everyone shook, even people, progressives that are to our right, my friends. We're seeing magical things happen among people that we used to roast, like, Democrat operatives who are like, I don't know, bro. I'm done. I think RBN was, they would never say it like that, but I think RBN was right, man. They would never say it. Man, fuck this shit, man. Even they are starting to realize this, but it's very important for us to realize this was cooked and established by the corporate media and the Biden administration and their satellites. Because when you have Morning Joe said he blames the administrator, remember this clip was before Columbia called the police and before we got the footage here. So remember what I kept telling you guys on Nick at Night when I was doing the propaganda reports. I kept asking you guys the question: what are they implying that the administrators should do? Now we see what Joe Scarborough wanted the police to do. So the police crackdown we saw last night is what we saw Morning Joe calling for.